Welcome to Art in the Digital World. I'm your host, Brandon Towne. This show is about people who have technical skills using electronics or computers to create their art. And this week we have a guest, and it's kind of funny to me because it's actually the first person who is actually a photographer, actually a digital photographer. Normally we've had other people who that's what they do, but today we have someone who's a real photographer. So I'd like to welcome on Anthony Frazier. Thank you very much for coming.
Oh, thank you for having me.
Why don't you tell us just a little bit about yourself and kind of how you got into photography, or maybe some of your early memories about photography?
I guess pretty much all throughout my life, I used to always look at pictures like every night, just looking at how they became or how they, I don't know, just how the photographer possibly, captured them. And I guess that's where my love started with it, but I didn't pursue it till like a later age, pretty much.
And did you go to school? Did you go take any classes or anything? Or are you self-taught?
Well, actually, I went to Columbia College, and it was a general ed requirement to take an art class, so I figured I would take a film class, and from there it just pretty much took off.
So you used a thing called film. What's that? No, I'm just kidding. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, a little bit about your experience working with film?
I think film truly makes you truly appreciate photography for what it is. It's easy to get lost in like the actual art of it with how the digital world is these days. But it definitely working in the dark room and actually seeing your pictures come to life, and actually, even when taking the picture, not being able to look at the back of the camera and not see what your image looks like. So you had to really know the technical side of everything. And I had an amazing teacher, Allison Fairfield, who definitely helped with like me where I am today, pretty much.
And when did you really start getting into the digital side of it and taking that seriously?
I think it was definitely towards the end of the class I decided I really wanted to pursue photography as a career, pretty much. So.
Did you know, even though you took the film class, did you know I'm going to eventually do digital? Did you?
Yeah, definitely, because taking the class, it cost a lot of money, like buying the paper, buying the film, and just everything. It was like I probably spent like $300 to $400 in that one semester just buying it, like different products and things like that. So.
Now, do you still use film for anything?
I haven't used it since I took the class, actually. So, no, I would love to if financially, but it's just so busy sometimes, and I would have to have my own digital darkroom. Well, I could, take it to the different stores that produce film, but it's like a different feeling when you actually produce it yourself, kind of thing. Mm-hmm.
So maybe talk a little bit about digital. Maybe kind of explain about some of the differences about using digital as opposed to film for those who don't really know.
Well, I guess with digital, it's definitely a lot less expensive, though the cameras are really expensive. But once you get to it, like you have a limited amount of pictures you can take for any given situation. The work process is a lot faster than it is in film, and I don't know, you just have the ability to do so much more, then you could actually add like the digital art of graphic design, incorporate that with that as well. So,
what do you think about the look? The differences in the look?
You can still accomplish the same film site feeling just because they have different filters as well, but there's something about film that has that classic look that you just recognize, and I'm pretty sure a lot of really high photographers can like definitely see the difference.
I know, and you probably know this too. For a while, the big problem was that the quality wasn't there. The digital quality wasn't there. It wasn't high enough resolution. The color range wasn't there. Do you think that the quality aspect of it is there to be able to match what film kind of has?
Yeah, definitely. With the way technology is, actually the quality is probably way beyond film these days. Just like, for instance, different cameras that are 60 megapixel cameras, it's like huge files. But yeah, definitely.
And tell us a little bit about the camera you have. I think you brought it. Maybe we could check it out if you don't mind showing it to us and talking a little bit about it. Maybe talk a little bit about a DSLR. Kind of what that is.
Oh, okay. So I shoot with a Nikon D40, which is pretty. It's not a professional camera, but it does get the job done for now. And I originally bought this camera because I didn't want to spend a lot of money and make sure I wanted to follow through with something as well. But I use a D40. It's a 6 megapixel camera, and a lot of times it's more about the lens itself than the camera. So. Yeah.
And you can change the lenses. You have lens options,
yes,
right?
Definitely.
Yeah. I think that's one of the main things too about the DSLRs and some of the other new cameras is the ability to change the lenses. You have a different look.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Do you have preferences on your lenses? Do you kind of prefer certain lenses than others?
Oh yeah, definitely. There's a Nikon brand lenses, which are definitely. I mean, you can use different lenses from different companies on the Nikons, but the Nikon lenses usually have the sharper glass, and I like to use a lot of portrait lens with a low aperture and everything like that, like 2.8 or 1.4 or 1. So.
Now, can you explain a little bit about the mirror, the mirror inside, if you can explain it good, as opposed to a regular point and shoot, because there's a lot of digital cameras out there that people have, but they just are point and shoot cameras. What makes this different than those?
I guess the options and being able to control the lighting situation, from shutter speeds to ISO to the aperture. Like faster shutter speeds mean allowing less light in, or longer shutter speeds if you wanted to take really night images and different things stuff like that. So
great. And it kind of has the same mechanism as an old film camera.
Oh yeah,
right?
definitely. Pretty much the same. Just the screen and just a couple of different things like memory cards and stuff.
Now, when you shoot, this is just a little quick question. When you shoot, do you find that you look at the screen a lot, or do you look through the viewfinder a lot, or a mix, or do you have a preference? Or?
Yeah, I usually rarely, if even, look at the screen. I may, in the beginning, look at the screen when I'm testing lighting situations, but once I get into the shoot, I usually never look at the screen, honestly, unless the situation changes, if we move to a different location or if I move the lights to a different way. So. Okay.
Now, tell us a little bit about your kind of what you like to do with shooting, because I know you do a lot of studio portrait work. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, definitely. I mostly do family portraits and engagements, but my first love is definitely the editorial commercial fashion area. So it's a lot of working or building your portfolio in that area to even get to the direction you want to go to as well.
And once you do your shoot, what do you use? What do you edit in?
Oh, I use Adobe Lightroom and Adobe Photoshop. And Adobe Lightroom is pretty much Photoshop, but you can organize your photos better. And you can use like you can copy your settings or the editing you do on one image and paste it on different ones, and it's a lot faster than Photoshop. And then Photoshop, I use that for the really define the images, whether it's skin retouching or removing blurs or hairs or anything like that. So.
What do you think about the powerfulness of those two programs? How would you describe them as far as what they allow you to do to do your projects?
I guess it's like an endless capability. You can pretty much do anything, anything imaginable you can do with Photoshop, especially because Lightroom's more of a generic kind of color tone change and shadows and enhancing, but Photoshop is total manipulating program.
Do you use any other programs, or that's pretty much it?
Yeah, those are the only two I use.
Well, I use Photoshop, so I can definitely swear by it. It's definitely an awesome program. And I haven't used Lightroom that much, but I have used it a little, and it is really nice what you can do. It's nice because it used to be that there was no Lightroom, and you just had Photoshop.
Yeah.
And the file management sometimes would be very painstaking and long, and you had to do everything manual, but with Lightroom they really allowed you to kind of help organize your photos a lot better.
Yeah, definitely.
What do you think about some of the other programs like iPhoto? Do you think that those are good programs for people to use? Do you have you ever played around with iPhoto at all?
I actually have never used iPhoto.
Oh, okay. Oh.
Yeah. But yeah, I believe you can still do a lot, still color correcting, and I believe in iPhoto.
I think that iPhoto is a little more of like a consumer type program,
yeah.
or not Aperture. Lightroom is more of a professional kind of
definitely.
organizing. You have a lot more options. Yeah. So the next thing is printing. How do you? What's your kind of process for once you've done your editing? What do you do with the printing? And talk maybe a little bit about how you do these frames here. If you can.
Okay. Well, printing we have two Epson printers. The other one I believe is a 1400, and the big one we have for those size images is a 3800, I believe. And I pretty much do printing from Photoshop when it comes to like big prints, but then when it comes to smaller size, I probably would work those in Lightroom because Lightroom has a good printing software as well located in it too.
Okay. And well, let's go ahead and take a look at one of these. I went to your studio. Actually, let's talk about your studio. Yeah. Tell us about your studio.
Oh, my studio's in Murphy's. It's on 78 Scott Street, and I have very gracious parents because my dad believed in my dream and career, and that's so he believed it. He supported it, and he was the one who definitely helped me get off the feet, and he still supports. And so, yeah, the studio, it's like I enjoy it. It gives you a different feel when you have a studio because I started shooting from my house or on location, but when you actually have a solid like foundation somewhere in town where people can walk by, it like enhances the whole outlook on your photography career.
And I went in there, and it's a really great studio, and it's a really big space. I think that seems to help when you're doing it because you have a lot more freedom to do what you want to do.
Oh yeah, definitely.
And you light it so you can control everything. Well, let's go ahead and take a look at these because when I went in your studio, you have this huge wall with all your photography, and I'm really impressed. I think you have some really beautiful stuff, but there were some that we pointed out that I thought were really wonderful pictures. So tell us a little bit about this photo and maybe who it is and your experience with it.
Well, this was a family. They're like a friend of the family, and they wanted to take pictures because they were visiting from Arizona. And the funny thing about this picture is it wasn't a planned picture. Like all the kids were just running around, and she was just sitting there. So then I called her name, and she looked at me, and I snapped the picture, and somehow that's came out. And I guess that picture motivated me too with my style. When I take family portraits, I like to have a more, even though the pictures are posed, I like to have a more candid feel. So, you know, just to add a naturalness to make it seem like, oh, this is how a family should be, and you know, so everybody won't be stiff and hand on the shoulder pose.
I think that's one of the things I like about it is it's really beautiful, but it looks natural. It looks like. You can kind of tell it isn't just a quick snap. So, and here's another kid, I think, that's really an awesome picture. Yeah. Let's see. There we go. Tell us a little bit about this one.
He's actually my little cousin. So I was in Southern California, which is where the bamboo, because you don't really see bamboo around much, but he pretty much just ran wild. There was no posing. I just chased after him the entire day, just snapping pictures, and that was one of the ones I got of him. And I don't know, I think it fits the whole colors. It just draws you in, and just his expressions and the way he is posed as well, you could tell full of energy.
And how many pictures did you take that day, do you know?
I believe it was somewhere around 300.
Wow.
Just because he moved around a lot.
Can you tell me a little bit about maybe what you did in the editing to bring it out? How much is this altered to be the way it is?
I usually try to keep the images as true to themselves as I possibly can, but I did enhance the greens and the blues just to make it a more warm, kind of draw you in kind of color, and just, I don't know, there was probably probably a minor retouching with certain leaves and stuff around his feet just to clear away the shoes and everything like that. So.
Great. Well, and then we have one more picture, which I think is my favorite one that you had, and I'm glad that you brought it because I think it's a really amazing black and white photo. Tell us a little bit about this one.
I believe this picture originally was a homework assignment, and my grandpa happened to be visiting, so I asked him if I could take a picture of him, and I just told him to, just tell me a story and to stare off away from the camera, and that's what he did. And I worked on the depth of field, and I wanted to draw the image more to his eye, and also I didn't want to like overly retouch it and take out any wrinkles, and because I think the wrinkles show like age and wisdom and beauty, and that's exactly what I wanted to capture. And originally I did shoot this in color, but then I converted it to black and white, and it had a more noble effect about it.
I think you have some really wonderful black and white pictures in your studio.
Oh, thank you.
What do you think about that? I mean, why do you like to do things black and white?
I guess sometimes color can distract from the image. I believe color is really good when it comes to like fashion and editorial and commercial, when you're trying to sell something, or even artists. But when you have black and white, it shows so much emotion and just characteristic in the image, and it just draws it to you. And that's what I've learned from black and white, because that's what I started on. So you had to actually capture a moment or just even a story just without using any color. So I learned to ignore the colors definitely when I took pictures. And even now, sometimes I've gone back to shooting in black and white, even with family portraits, and then later on converted to color. But it takes a whole new feeling, and you interpret it better.
Yeah, I've always thought that shooting in black and white, it's kind of like you have one less thing to worry about.
Yes, definitely.
And so you really can focus on some of the other skills like framing and contrast and stuff. Now, has he had a chance to see this photo?
Oh, yes.
What did he think of it?
The first time he saw it, he said, "Oh, do I look that old?" But he really admires the photo.
Yeah.
He likes it a lot.
Yeah, that's great. So in your studio, you have people come and do photos. I mean, what is it like? What is it like to have people come and do a photo shoot?
It's a lot of times people are nervous because they're so used to the normal posing or a camera being really up in your face. But I always emphasize that the family should try to keep the family dynamic and just communicate with each other. I may have them talk. Depending on the situation, I may play music for people with kids. I try to have them bring toys and just, let them run loose. Definitely with kids, I always tell the parents, just let them have fun and let them do what they're going to do. And it usually turns out right.
And how long do they go for?
It depends. I guess the portraits, usually up to an hour to an hour and a half. Engagements are usually 2 hours, but then the fashion area usually is probably half a day or a full day. That's a long day, yeah.
And you spend a lot of time setting up the lighting?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
When you do the portrait photography, how many pictures do you usually take?
I usually take on average about 150. The only reason because since the lens I have for my camera, it doesn't autofocus, because since the camera's a low-end camera, so I had to manually focus, which surprisingly I've started to master after a while. So I had to take more than one of the same pose just in case it ends up a little blurry.
And out of those 150 around, how much do you usually end up? How many do you end up? Is it just one, or do you usually have more than one to do? Or
usually, I ended up with about, I guess, 18 to 30 images for them to choose from.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Now, when you do that, how much of it is sort of pre-planned as far as the angles compared to when you come up with something on the spot?
I usually have an idea like doing straight on and close-ups, but usually from there I'm more spontaneous and kind of like whatever feels right, and depending on the family dynamic or the person or how they feel and how comfortable they are with the camera. Like, that's usually the whole goal, to see how comfortable everyone is, and that determines how I shoot, pretty much.
And do you find that you use your photos that, you know, are more planned, or do you use the ones that are more spontaneous, or?
Most of the time, they're usually more spontaneous.
Yeah. Okay. The next thing I want to ask is, when you take your photos, you were talking to me about experimenting. You do some experimenting. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Oh, experimenting as in, I guess, on the, I guess the digital editing side, I definitely, like, I actually learned how to use Photoshop before I even knew about taking photography. So definitely, like, playing with that, I come, you know, different mini ideas, and you see something. Or even when I just take pictures more so on the fashion editorial side, or even with family pictures, I may have like different ideas that I may tell the subject, and if they're interested in trying it, then, you know. Yeah.
How important is that as an artist to try new things?
Oh, it's definitely important. It keeps you, keeps your ideas like definitely fresh, and it adds a new dynamic. And then you don't want to be just that casual, just photographer going for the money. Like, you like to keep the whole creative side in, you know, definitely.
Well, something that always comes up in the idea or in this show is, you know, is how important do you think it is to do this because you love it, as opposed to doing it for the money?
Yeah, it's definitely, the love definitely comes, because if you love something so much and you're truly passionate about it, then the money's always, it's going to come eventually. Yeah. And it's just staying true to your art form and not compromising on something that you know possibly shouldn't do, or something that not describes how you shoot and everything. So if you stay focused on that, then the rest just usually comes.
So, and then the big question I always ask is, why do you think it's important for people to do art?
I think art is definitely a good way of expressing yourself. Even with, I guess, a lot of people are quiet and shy, and like, I'm a naturally shy person, but I feel this is one of my outlets where I can just truly express myself and show what, like, I'm thinking. And, you know, a lot of times people truly do accept it more so than if you were to possibly say something.
That's wonderful. That's great. So tell us a little bit about the 1001 Faces project that you have.
So yes, the 1001 Faces. I'm always trying to think of different projects to keep my creativity going. And I remember one time I was trying to think of a project, and I thought of like, having people's faces, but I couldn't decide whether I wanted to like crop the top part of their face and just show the mouth, or crop the bottom and cover the mouth. And my mom, she suggested that covering the mouth, and like we talked about it and coming up with different quotes. So I came up with this project, but then I wanted to somehow help people by using this project. So there's a local community service program, which is at the Angels Camp, SDA Church, and they help families who are, you know, less than fortunate. And so I decided to do a 1001 Face project, and eventually it's going to become a book. So then all the proceeds made from the book will go to helping that organization, pretty much.
I think it's great. You know, I saw some of the pictures, and maybe you can tell us a little bit about your experience with the variety of people, you know, and the different reactions that you have, that they have.
Yeah, definitely. It's just amazing just to see the different personalities and just how interested people are in wanting to help, but just the different quotes and the different ideas people have. Like lately, they've been getting more and more creative and just interesting. I had like a little boy cry, I had people painted their face, I had people make hand glasses, and just so many different things. And then you have people giving wise words, you have people saying inside jokes. It's just a whole dynamic. It's almost like, oh, you get to see like everybody in the world kind of coming together with this whole idea kind of thing.
And so you don't give them any direction, you just tell them do whatever you want to do.
Yep, pretty much, and come up with their quotes, even though sometimes some people take a while and they'll sit in my studio for 40 minutes trying to think of a good quote. But
And then I imagine there's probably some people who are just like, let's go, right?
Yeah, definitely. Definitely.
That's cool.
Yeah.
What about when you do the fashion photography? How much direction, how would you describe your direction that you give to the models?
I guess the direction, it usually even starts like maybe 2 weeks before, depending on how big the idea, because let's see, even recently I did a breast cancer awareness photo shoot, and I had planned this in my head for like the whole beginning of this year, and it just finally started coming together, just planning, like getting the people, getting the hairstylists, the makeup artists, and having the idea of like wardrobe and what I wanted the message to say and how I wanted the images, and then even in the moment, just directing the models. And it's a great experience. It can be stressful at times, and definitely draining when you're finished at the end of the day, but when you see the final work, and it's definitely amazing. And even the editing is a lot more detailed than I do with family portraits. It takes like pretty much 2 to 3 times as long sometimes.
Wow. What about, what kind of projects do you have planned for the future?
I have a project, it's called I Am Me, and it's pretty much the people, different people who are possibly iconic in different cities or different towns, and describing what makes them them and what their purpose is on life. So my target definitely right now is working with the people in Murphy's, and I've kind of started on the project already, and hopefully make a book and have even an interview and just really black and white images as well.
Now, have you lived up here your whole life, or?
No, I've been in Murphy's for almost 4 years, and before that I was in Copper, and then before that I was in Oakland, so yeah.
Do you think, what's your experience? We don't have much time left, but real quick, what's your experience with doing photography here in Murphy's?
I think it's definitely more accepting, and it's a lot easier to work with because everybody's really supportive for young adults who are trying to do really good things with their life, and it's just the support, just the collaboration with other artists, and you get inspired by everyone, and everyone is just sharing their ideas, and it helps motivate each other.
Cool. Now, tell us the name of your studio again.
Oh, Mobile Snap Studios.
Okay. Do you have a website for it?
Yeah, it's www.mobilesnapstudios.com.
Great. Yeah, I think it's a really cool place, and I think Murphy's definitely has the attitude of you can kind of go into places and people can just kind of interact with each other.
Definitely.
And, I'd say go and check it out just to see the paintings, or they're not paintings, they're photographs, but they are really, really beautiful. That's really wonderful. Well, Anthony, we're out of time, so thank you very much for coming to the show and sharing your art, and it's kind of inspiring for people, especially people who are interested in art and who want to do things locally, that there is options out there for people to do local art type stuff. So
definitely.
thank you very much, and thank you very much for watching Art in the Digital World.